So you've probably heard that taxes in North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina specifically, are way more affordable than they are in other parts of the country like New York or New Jersey or Connecticut. And that would be true by far. However, there's one line item that a lot of people forget about, and they end up spending more money on that than what they're saving in taxes. And it's not what you think it is. We're going to get to that in just one second, but today's video is going to be a breakdown of the cost of living in Wilmington, North Carolina in 2026. We're going to talk about housing and insurance and food, entertainment. No fluff, because this is Port City Living, Wilmington, North Carolina, unfiltered. Okay, let's talk about the housing market. This is my wheelhouse as I'm a real estate agent. The median price for a home in Wilmington right now is just over $418,000. The average days on the market is about 20, which is really good because we're not seeing the frenzy that we saw from 2021 or 2022, thank God. But that just shows you that Wilmington's still very desirable. People are still moving here and things are moving rather quickly. Now, of course, that depends on location, condition, and things like that, but the average days is 20. Rent across Wilmington citywide average is about $1,635 a month. Now, that will change drastically depending on where you're thinking about renting in Wilmington. If you're over near UNCW renting a two-bedroom, that's going to look quite different than it would be if you are living downtown in the historic district with a water view, or even at Wrightsville Beach with some kind of view. So keep that in mind as well. I recently had a couple that moved from up north and they purchased a $550,000 home. They put 20% down. They financed at 6.5%. The principal and interest on that loan was $2,119 a month. We estimated $285 a month for taxes, $260 a month for homeowners insurance, and that got them to $2,664 a month. Now, they did not get flood insurance because they were not in a flood zone, okay? So that will make a difference in your payment as well. Also, what will make a difference in your payment is if you opt not to put 20% down, you will have that private mortgage insurance piece to add to your monthly payment. If you don't know what private mortgage insurance is, talk to your lender. They can explain that to you. Now, let's talk about flood insurance just for 1 second, because that does make a difference in your payment, and that's something you need to think about. I talk about flood insurance a lot in my videos because it is something that is important and it does affect us in this area. It is probably a good idea to investigate and carry flood insurance, even if you're not buying in a flood zone. Of course, if you are buying in a flood zone, you do have to carry flood insurance. But we had this happen to us in 2018 when Hurricane Florence came through, dumped a ton of water on our area, and areas in Wilmington that were not considered in a flood zone, they flooded, and those people got screwed. So you might want to speak to your insurance provider about flood insurance and adding it to your home just to be safe. It never hurts. Okay, let's talk about taxes, property taxes. This is the thing that we're known for. This is the thing you've been waiting for, right? So let's say, for example, you purchase a home for $500,000 here in Wilmington. You're probably going to pay somewhere between $3,500 and $4,000 a year in property taxes. Yeah, that's quite a bit of difference from those up north who might buy the same kind of house, same size house, same price, and pay $10,000 to $15,000. So that is a big savings here by living in this area. Now, we calculate our taxes based on two things if you live in the county or in the city. If you live in the county, you're going to pay 30.6 cents per 100 of your assessed value. If you live in the city, you're going to pay that and 33.15 cents per 100 of your assessed value. So you'll pay 64 cents per 100. We go off assessed value and not what you pay for it. Now that is a sticky subject for a lot of people, but that's just the way we do it here. It's not based off what you pay for your property. Sometimes we'll get assessed, like we just got assessed last year in 2025. We get assessed every 4 years. Sometimes people will get their assessment in the mail and realize that it's way higher than it should be because they know what's going on in their neighborhoods and they see what things are selling for. So in that case, people have known to just reach out to their agent, get comps for the area, and write back into the tax office and say, hey, look, this is too high. Let's make some adjustments and see what happens. I've had people do that and they've had success. I just had my home appraised recently because I'm getting a line of credit, and my tax assessed value came in and they were exactly the same. So, that's okay. So that's how we calculate the taxes, much, much lower here than other parts of the state. And that is what brings people here. But what is the trade-off? Do you remember that little thing at the top of the video that I said, that one line item that people kind of forget about or they're not told about, and where they might save money in taxes, they might spend a little more somewhere else? Well, that little thing is called insurance, and it is a killer here. It really, really is. Let me give you some statistics. New Hanover County averages $6,651 per year per homeowner. That is 3 times more than what it would cost somebody that lived inland in North Carolina. This is all driven because of storms and wind and hail and hurricane risk, and they're all baked into your premiums here. Rates have climbed 7.5% in each of the past 2 years, tied directly to hurricane-related claims statewide. So that is crazy. And you know, that's not even including your flood insurance. We touched on that earlier. You know, flood insurance is a big deal. I'll mention it again. You have to know this if you're thinking about looking at a home. You may see 2 or 3 homes on one street. One home might be in a mandatory flood zone. You have to carry flood insurance. While the house 2 doors down might not be in a mandatory flood zone, and you don't have to. That's going to make a big difference in your payment. Now, I mentioned that flood insurance is relatively affordable. It is somewhere between $600 a year and $1,000 a year, and that depends on the flood maps, the elevation, what you choose as a homeowner for protection. But it is something to think about. And again, even if you're not in a flood zone, you might want to consider adding that too. I can't say that enough. This is another reason why our HOA dues seem to be so incredibly high. Is because of the master insurance coverage that the neighborhoods have to carry for condos and townhomes in order to be protected. So these are good questions to ask if you're thinking about buying a home in this area. Just make sure you know all the details before you fall in love instead of after you fall in love. Let's talk about food for one hot second. The good news is, and this is kind of a boring section, is that Wilmington's food prices are right in line with the national average. Nothing exceptional here. We've got a great lineup of grocery stores. We got Harris Teeter, Lowe's Foods, Food Lion. We've got a Whole Foods. We've got a Fresh Market. And then our dining experiences here are great. Of course, we've got restaurants on the water. We've got restaurants in the historic downtown. We've got high-end stuff, low-end stuff, and everything in between. Okay, so let's talk about the income reality check, because this is a big one for a lot of people. And this is what makes Wilmington feel so expensive for people who already live here and that are trying to make a living in this city. Now, the median income for an average person in Wilmington, North Carolina is only $64,000 a year. Now remember, we said the median house price in Wilmington is $418,000 a year. That's 6.5 times somebody's income. That's 3 to 4 times more than what the guidelines say it should be. And renters, you're not off the hook either. Remember, we talked about this. $1,300 to $1,400 for 1 bedroom. That's 30% plus the median renter's take-home pay. And it's not that Wilmington is really that expensive, not compared to like Brooklyn or Boston or somewhere like that. It's just that the income for our area has not caught up to what the housing market is doing. So here's a few tidbit pieces of information you might find interesting. We have a 7% sales tax here in the area. Groceries are exempt. The average power bill can run anybody from $180 a month to $240, depending on the size of your house and how you use your power. We do have a wave transit system, which is our bus line that people can use if they need to. That might run you $50 to $250 a month, depending on how you use it, if that's your only source of transportation. However, I will say Wilmington is most definitely a car city. Everybody has a car, and it's evident every time you get on the streets because our traffic is nuts. We have some amazing weather. The average high is about 74 degrees every year, and the low is about 54. Although we have peaked into the low hundreds in the summertime before, because we do get a little humid, and in the wintertime we have had some cold snaps and some snow. But that's what makes this place we call home so charming. Okay, so what do these numbers look like in real time? So if you are thinking about relocating to Wilmington and renting an apartment, just remember that the average apartment rental is $1,635 a month. If you take 30% of that, which is the rule of thumb for how much you should be spending per your income on living, then you'll need to make $65,000 a year. If you're thinking about purchasing a home, you'll recall that the median price in Wilmington is $418,000. And if you take the lender's rule of thumb, which is 28% of your income toward your housing, that means you need to make $120,000 a year. Now, I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm just giving you the facts, because remember, the average income in Wilmington is only about $64,000. Now, if you're coming here from another place with another income, or you're working remote, then you're not gonna have any problems living in Wilmington at all. But for those of you who live here or from here, that gap between what you make and the affordability of housing is gonna hit you, and it's gonna make a difference. So the magic question, is Wilmington affordable? That's what we really want to know. That's what you've been waiting for. And the answer is, it depends on what you're comparing it to. If you're comparing it to the Northeast or California, then yes, it's very affordable with no problems whatsoever. But again, if you're a local here, like I am, and you've been here your whole life, there is that huge gap that you have to think about when you are getting ready to purchase a home, and the affordability part of it. Either way, the flood zone part, where the flood insurance comes into play with your mortgage payment, if you're thinking about buying a home, the insurance, the additional insurance that we pay here that's a little bit more expensive than anywhere else, those are going to make big differences in your bottom line. So you need to think about that, before you get into a mortgage payment, and not after you've already bought the home, because that's not going to be a good thing. So I hope you found this information educational, informative. If you did, and you love it, give me a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to the channel. If you have questions, please reach out to me. And if you're thinking about relocating, I'd love to help you. And I put together a really awesome relocation guide. And if you click the link down below, give me some information, I will send it right over to you. I'm Bill Corbett with Port City Living. This is the channel about Wilmington, North Carolina, unfiltered. Now go out there, live a great life, and if somebody doesn't have a smile, then give them yours.